Wow, that watch looks awful on you.
Has anyone ever said this to you? I hope not, but if they haven't said it to you directly, they may be thinking it. This video will equip you with the knowledge to avoid those situations. And I know perception isn't everything, but feeling confident about yourself is. Let's get on to the first point. And unlike my blazer, your watch has to fit you well. I know, guys, I'm work in progress. It just has to get tailored. Just a quick disclaimer, these opinions are completely my own and they are just opinions. If you disagree with any of them, tell me in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let's continue on with sizing. Generally, having a smaller watch is not usually a problem. If Muhammad Ali can pull it off, so can you. Sometimes it can look unproportional to your wrist if you have a gigantic wrist and the watch that you're wearing is minuscule. Usually the problem lies with the larger watches. Watch brands like Invicta make these giant watches that don't fit a human wrist for the most part. And it just looks like frisbees on your wrist, just like Joe Rogan said.
Yeah, it's awesome. Take that piece of stupid frisbee you got on your wrist.
Generally, you want to avoid that type of watch that doesn't fit you well. And that's why it's so important to go into a watch shop or talk to your AD to actually get the watch on your wrist to make sure it fits well. With watches, fit is a huge aspect that you should keep in mind. Let's get on to the occasion. Making sure your watch suits the occasion is a key aspect of having a watch that suits you. You probably don't want to be the person that's wearing a JLC Reverso at the beach because something like the Reverso only has 30 meters of water resistance, meaning that the moment you step into the water, you're probably going to damage it from either sand or water. Personally, I just take my watch off. It's not worth it for me to damage any sort of watch. They could also wear a sports watch, a dive watch, all those things would suffice. However, wearing those stainless steel sports watches aren't appropriate in certain occasions such as black tie events. And I know it needs to be said, right now stainless steel watches have been on the rise for the past few decades, and some of you have spent an arm and a leg on them, but it needs to be said, your Seiko 5s and your Black Bays aren't going to cut it for certain occasions. For dressy occasions, I'd personally recommend wearing something with a leather strap or an alligator strap just to make sure that you're suiting the occasion and you don't look like you're about to run outside and catch a football. Unfortunately, I feel like this needs to be said. There is blood flowing through your wrists. I know it's mind-blowing, but sometimes I walk down the streets and I wonder if people realize that. I walk down the streets of Toronto and generally see people wearing smartwatches, but their watches are so tight to their wrist that sometimes I just want to go up to them and relieve their wrist of the pain. Having a really, really tight watch has some serious ramifications outside of just being uncomfortable. It can cut off circulation. You don't want your watch cutting off your circulation. If I were to pick one of the two evils of having a watch too loose or too tight, I would definitely have it too loose. There are still some problems with having a watch too loose, which is basically having your watch kind of banging up against your wrist every time you move it. And it kind of looks a bit immature, if I'm being honest. And it looks like you just walked out of your AD and you have no clue that you can resize your watch. Or it looks like you're wearing your dad's watch. Generally, it is more societally accepted for women to wear looser watches. If you want to rock the looser watch look, you do that. But I would strongly recommend avoiding having your watch too tight. And a good rule of thumb is being able to fit one finger in between your wrist and your watch. Let's move on to the fourth category. Similar to the other category I mentioned, this one has to do with how the watch sits on your wrist. And that is having a watch that sits way too close to your wrist bone. And if you aren't a watch fanatic like me, and you don't plan on staring at your watch throughout the day, and you actually plan on moving your wrist, you probably shouldn't have your watch super close to your wrist bone because that actually reduces mobility. And I don't know about you, but I like moving my wrist. Let's move on to too much bling and too much gold. Unless you just recorded the newest album with Drake and you just walked out of the studio, personally, I think bling should be limited. The goal of the watch, usually, is to make you look somewhat sophisticated in the modern day, to make you stand out a little bit more, and to make you look like you actually know what you're doing. But I think having a whole bunch of diamonds on your watch, whether they're real, whether they're fake, can cheapen the look of a watch, because usually the people who are wearing iced out watches in gold are either rappers in 2000s videos or someone on the subway who just picked up the first watch they could find on the clearance aisle in their department store. I would just avoid gold and blingy watches. You can have some gold, I think that it looks classy, but if the whole watch is gold and you have a whole iced out watch, it's just not for me. That's a personal opinion that I think that it seems to be a shared opinion, but if you want to do that, you can do that. Let's talk about color. And color is a very important thing when you're talking about watches. If you're at a black tie event, you probably want to leave your yellow Citizen Soyosa at home or wear it on a casual event. And aside from the actual occasion, you also have the ability to express your personality through the watch. If you are more of an introvert and you want to express that aspect of you, or you just want a versatile colored watch, the watch colors that are most common are blue, black. Those two colors are very versatile in terms of the watch dial, and basically any other color is out there and more of a bold statement. Again, if you're also an introvert, you can do the complete opposite and actually have a bold color watch, a statement watch, to complement that aspect of your personality that you're potentially lacking or you need improvement on. And vice versa, if you're more of an extrovert, you can have a bold statement piece that expresses your personality, or more of a neutral colored watch to kind of pull back from your extroverted nature. Let's talk about the last category, and it's the most important category in my opinion. It's about pricing and the way it makes you feel, of course. So in terms of pricing, watches, at the end of the day, they are obsolete pieces of technology. There are these chunks of metal that you and I have fallen in love with, and we pay a little bit, sometimes a lot, way too much for these chunks of metal. First, I want to just put out this disclaimer. I don't think there's anything wrong with saving up your money to afford your Grail watch, this watch that you've been eyeing for the past, I don't know, however long, and making sure that you can acquire it. That's fine. But the main thing that you have to keep in mind is that this is a watch, and it might, and it probably will get damaged. So you have to be able to be comfortable with damaging this watch. If you're spending well beyond your means, you may not feel as comfortable damaging this watch, and personally I wouldn't recommend spending beyond your means, because that's just going to make you feel overly cautious and overly paranoid about wearing this watch, and it's just not going to be a good experience. Personally, I'd recommend actually spending less than you want to, because then you can spend that extra cash on something that you will remember. These are pieces of technology, and I think most people would rather spend, in the long run, when they think about it, when they close their eyes at night, you're probably going to think, oh, I wish I should have spent that money on a nice dinner with the family instead of a watch that has slightly better specs. Nothing against people who are saving up for watches, because personally I am too, but never spend beyond your means. And lastly, just how it makes you feel, of course. At the end of the day, there are no real style rules, no fashion rules for watches. It may look a little bit out of the ordinary sometimes. The watch you wear on your wrist should truly make you feel better. Shouldn't be to appease others. It's a personal reflection of what you would like to spend your money on and what you want to wear on your wrist. I am so glad you made it to the end of the video. I truly appreciate you by choosing to support me by watching this. One thing I would ask you to do is just hitting the like button, potentially hitting the subscribe button if you enjoyed, giving me some constructive feedback in the comments below, any of your thoughts about the video or about the video topic itself. I would love to hear about it, and currently I'm responding to all of the comments down below, and I hope that this watch channel patinas over time, just like your favorite watch, and it gets better over time by incorporating your feedback and just your comments below. I'll see you on another episode of the Time Ticker. Bye.